The night smelled of rain and fear. Eleanor ran through the hospital doors, her arms trembling as she held her burning child close to her chest. Leo's small face glistened with sweat, his breathing short and sharp. "Please," she gasped, her voice breaking. "Somebody help my son." Nurses rushed forward, their shoes squeaking against the floor, guiding her into the bright emergency room filled with echoes of pain and urgency. As the doctors moved around her, Eleanor's mind spiraled. She had done everything alone. Every birthday, every sleepless night, she never thought she'd need to see him again. But fate was cruel. The door swung open. A tall man stepped in, white coat slightly wrinkled, eyes focused and calm. For a heartbeat, time stopped. Eleanor's breath caught in her throat. That face, those eyes she once knew so well, stared back at her in disbelief. Julian, her past, her heartbreak, the man who didn't know he had a son. His gaze dropped to Leo and she saw his expression shatter into shock, recognition, and something deeper, pain. The storm outside roared, but inside, the real storm had just begun. Eleanor stood frozen as Julian's name echoed in her chest like a heartbeat she had tried to forget. His voice, calm yet trembling beneath the surface, cut through the air. "What's his name?" he asked, his eyes never leaving Leo's pale face. She opened her mouth, but words refused to come. The years apart, the silence, the secrets, everything collided in that small room filled with the soft beeping of monitors. Julian reached for a stethoscope, his hand steady, but his eyes told another story. When he listened to Leo's heartbeat, his fingers trembled slightly. It wasn't just a patient anymore. It was a reflection of himself. The nurse asked for a signature, and Julian took the chart before Eleanor could. "I'll handle this," he said quietly. His tone carried both authority and hidden pain. Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. She wanted to tell him everything, that she never meant to keep Leo away, that fear and heartbreak had guided her choices. But as Julian looked at her again, the truth hung between them like smoke. "Eleanor," he whispered, his voice breaking, "is he mine?" The words hit her harder than the storm outside. She looked at Leo's small hand clutching hers, then met Julian's gaze. "Yes," she breathed. The truth finally escaped, and nothing could ever be the same again. Julian felt the ground disappear beneath him. The room seemed smaller now, the walls closing in around the truth he never saw coming. For years he had buried himself in work, healing strangers while unknowingly missing his own child's first laugh, first word, first step. His throat tightened as he turned toward Leo, watching the rise and fall of his tiny chest under the soft hospital light. "My son," he whispered, as if saying it might make up for lost time. Eleanor looked down, guilt pressing like a weight she could no longer carry. She had imagined this moment countless times, but never like this. Never with fear and exhaustion written across both their faces. "Why didn't you tell me?" Julian asked quietly, his voice shaking more from heartbreak than anger. Eleanor's eyes glistened. "Because I thought you'd moved on," she said softly. "You were building a new life. I didn't want to be a memory that dragged you back." Julian exhaled, stepping closer. "You didn't just take away your pain, Eleanor, you took away mine, too." For a long moment they said nothing. Then Leo stirred weakly, his voice a faint whisper. "Mommy." Both of them turned instantly. And in that fragile moment, as Julian reached out to comfort the boy who shared his eyes, the past didn't matter, only the chance to make things right. Leo's eyes fluttered open, confusion swimming in them as the soft light of the hospital ceiling filled his vision. "Mommy, where am I?" His weak voice broke Eleanor's heart. She brushed his hair back gently, her voice trembling with relief. You're safe now, sweetheart. You're at the hospital. Julian stepped forward slowly, his expression torn between professionalism and emotion. When Leo's gaze met his, the boy tilted his head curiously. "Are you the doctor?" he asked. Julian nodded, but his voice caught. "Yes, I'm the doctor, and I'm here to make you better." Those words carried a weight even Leo couldn't understand. Eleanor watched the exchange, her throat tight. It was the first time Julian had spoken to his son, even if Leo didn't know it. There was something sacred in that moment, like a bridge being built between two lost souls. As Julian checked Leo's vitals, his hands shook ever so slightly. Every heartbeat he heard through the stethoscope felt like a reminder of what he had missed. Outside, the storm had calmed, but inside, both hearts were still battling. Eleanor wanted to tell Leo the truth, but feared how fragile everything still was. Julian finally looked at her. "He deserves to know, Eleanor," he said softly. "Not today," she whispered. "Let him heal first." Julian nodded, though his eyes told her he was already planning to stay, to fight for the years that had been stolen, and for the family he didn't know he still had. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the hospital window, painting golden lines across the white walls. Leo was resting peacefully, his tiny hand still wrapped around his mother's fingers. Eleanor hadn't slept. Her mind replayed Julian's voice, his questions, the shock in his eyes when he first saw Leo. She thought he might walk away again. But when she looked up, he was still there, sitting in the chair beside the bed, eyes red from a sleepless night. "You stayed?" she whispered. Julian looked up slowly. "I couldn't leave. Not again." His words carried both regret and quiet determination. For a moment, silence filled the room, heavy but strangely comforting. "Leo's strong," Julian said, his gaze on the monitor. "He just needs time." Eleanor nodded, her voice soft. "He gets that from you." The words slipped out before she could stop them, and Julian's eyes softened. He reached for Leo's chart but hesitated. "I don't know how to start, Eleanor. I missed so much. How do I become a father overnight?" She smiled faintly, tears glimmering. "By being here now, that's enough." Just then Leo stirred, his voice weak but curious. "Mommy, can the doctor stay with us?" Eleanor froze, looking at Julian. He smiled gently and answered before she could. "Only if your mom says yes." Her voice cracked, but she nodded. "Yes, he can stay." In that quiet, fragile moment, something healed, something years apart had broken but never destroyed. Days passed, and the hospital room slowly transformed from a place of fear into one of hope. Leo's color returned, his laughter, soft but real, echoed through the corridors. Julian found reasons to stay longer than his shift, checking on Leo, bringing him small toys, and even reading bedtime stories when Eleanor's voice grew tired. Each passing hour pulled them closer, though neither dared to speak about the years between them. Yet beneath the surface, emotions stirred: regret, forgiveness, and something that felt like the beginning of healing. One evening, as the sunset bathed the room in warm gold, Julian found Eleanor standing by the window. "He's strong," he said quietly, looking at their son asleep. "Just like his mother." She smiled faintly, tears gathering in her eyes. "I was never strong, Julian. I was just scared." He shook his head gently. "You were brave enough to raise him alone. That's more strength than I've ever known." The silence that followed wasn't heavy anymore. It was soft, filled with the weight of understanding. Julian took a hesitant step closer. "I can't change the past," he said, "but maybe I can help shape what comes next." Eleanor looked at him, her heart trembling. You already are. Their eyes met, two souls who had lost each other but found a reason to hope again. Outside, the storm clouds finally cleared, leaving behind a quiet sky. Inside that hospital room, a new beginning waited, built not on the pain of yesterday but on the fragile promise of tomorrow.